Hello, darlings, and welcome to a special edition of Wake Up and Show Up Live. I am your host, Portia Scott. If this is the first time that you've seen me, my name is Portia Scott. I am the host of Wake Up and Show Up podcast, as well as Wake Up Well, which is a weekly show dedicated to wellness for your mind, body, and soul. So I'm super duper excited. Hey, Brandon, thank you so much for joining, darling. I'm super excited because today, drum roll, my husband, John Henry Scott III, released his very first podcast. It is released. And so we wanted to have this time to have what we're calling not a podcast launch party, but we are calling it a podcast launch coffee lounge, because he loves coffee so much. But you guys, I thank you so much for coming in. So as you're coming in, you guys know how I do on the podcast or any live show. We always want to know what you are grateful for. What are you grateful for today, darling? It is Monday, and some people call it Monday, but today we are going to call it Grateful Monday. What are you grateful for? Val, thank you so much for joining, darling. Raheem, thank you so much for joining. Thank you. You guys share. I'm super excited about this podcast. I want to talk a little bit about the podcast. So it's called Chart to Heart, and the Chart to Heart podcast is a culture and engagement podcast. You know, John Henry spent a couple of years traveling the globe. He's been to 6 of the 7 continents. Listen, 6 of the 7 continents, and he has been teaching and leading and serving in the areas of leadership, in the areas of culture and engagement. So listen, if you are a business owner, if you are a business leader, if you want to be a business owner or business leader, this podcast is the one that you want to listen to. If you want to know where I get the inside scoop on how to lead and really how to do a lot of what I do here at Portia Scott Media, I lean on my senior advisor, my first VC, my husband. So you guys, I'm super excited. We're going to talk about the podcast. If you have questions, let us know what those questions are. One of the things that happened is John Henry Scott was able to do this in less than 30 days. And I want to tell you that you can too. So we'll have a little moment at the end where we talk a little bit about how you can launch your podcast in 30 days. Paula, hello, darling. I know you are out at Mohegan Sun, so I'm so excited that you are listening. Jasmine, listen, but don't watch, baby girl, because I know you are driving. Val, Rosetta, hello, darling. We in the house, got my coffee. You better come on. Listen, I got my tea, but I don't have my coffee. But for all of you all that are drinking coffee, enjoy it for me. So without further ado, I want to bring on that tall, dark, and handsome man that I'm married to, the host of Chart to Heart podcast, John Henry Scott III.
Hey, baby. Hey, everybody. Girl,
hey, Ayana. Thank you so much for joining, darling. I make you blush.
You're making me blush, girl.
That's what I'm trying to do. Listen, John Henry. Oh, grateful. Deisha says she's grateful for the legacy of MLK Jr. Yes. Val said the same thing. I'm grateful for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and my pastor's podcast. Hello, Renee. Thank you so much for joining, darling. Renee in the house. So, babe, that is that's Val's sister. Raheem, congratulations. Val said, hello, my pastor. So you guys, thank you so much. Bae, I am so proud of you.
Thank you, love.
I'm so proud of you. But before we get into this episode, I want you guys to hold on tight just a little bit because we're going to play a little something for you.
From me? Chart to Heart is a culture and engagement business-centric podcast where together we will explore stories, principles, and practices that inspire all of us to what I call discover the glue that connects the dots between people and strategy. It is my goal to create an audible platform that'll not only be my podcast, but our podcast. That is awesome.
So that's awesome. Is
I didn't know a little bit. That.
I know. So a little bit. That was a little bit of your trailer, and I am just so excited about all that you're doing. And there's so much that we're going to get into. We're going to get into the
Oh,
episode.
thank you.
People are just like, hello, my pastor. Ray
Thank
said
you. Hey,
hello.
Val. Hey,
Paula
Paula.
said
Thank you so much.
congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
so
Thank you. Thank you.
Asher said, nice cover.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Asher. Thank you for being on. Jonathan and Ayana are on. Thank you guys so much for showing up. I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up. You know, my husband serves so many people and in so many different capacities that I am excited about this project. I feel like I put the project out, and to be honest, I didn't do much of the heavy
won, though,
lifting
baby.
at
We
all.
won.
But I will say, if you go and listen to the first episode, you will hear yours truly on there,
That's
the
right.
organizational entrepreneur. So Paula said, sounds great. Daria, hello, darling. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
But John Henry, as we just welcome people on, and you know how we do. If you guys have not put it in the comments, let us know what you are grateful for. We don't start any show unless we know what you're grateful for. So John Henry, today, let us know what you're grateful for.
Yeah, I'm grateful for just the podcast. I'm grateful for so many things, but today specifically, I'm grateful for the podcast. As you know, and as our good executive producer in the background knows, this has been something that I've been toying with for quite some time. And so to be able to get it done and get it out to the world, and to be able to, kind of connect the dots with my friends and my colleagues literally all over the globe through this medium, it's pretty special. So I'm jazzed about it. So that's what I'm grateful for right now in this moment.
Everybody,
Thank you,
I'm so
everybody.
grateful for it too. You know, I think for me, we were going over it, and I think being in the midst of it, and like, how do I edit this and how do I edit that? And you guys, he's doing his own editing right now, but sooner or later he'll be tossing it over because it is a lot of work. But just listen to the first episode with Mr. Scott. It was dynamic. Thank you so much for joining, darling. And Tam, thank you so much for being a very first-time visitor and listener. You guys know how we do for our first-time viewers. Let's give it up for them. Clap your hands for Miss Tam. Thank you so much for joining. Katie, grateful for amazing friends like you both. Katie, we're
Love
so
you,
grateful
Katie.
for you and Aaron as well. Got to get on that golf. We brought two other people in the fold on it as well. But, babe, you serve so many people. And so I just thought it fitting that we would have a couple people come on and just give you a little congratulations. So the first person we're going to have on is Godfrey Beatty. Hey, Godfrey. Brother. So Godfrey, before you go, you have to tell me what you're grateful for.
Grateful for just friendship.
So good.
Yeah, friendship and love.
I love that. So I'll let you go ahead and say your congratulations and anything you want to say to John Henry Scott III.
Hey, brother, just wanted to say, man, proud of you. Congratulations. Excited to, often I get to see you in your zone as a pastor, and it's exciting to kind of see you in a different space as you share your gift with the world. So
love it.
Excited.
You, man. Thank you, bro. Love.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. So you know what? It's just so Godfrey said it. So many people know you as a pastor, but people don't know you as this dynamic executive leader that you are. And I believe that you merge those two jointly. So the next person that we are going to bring up is Aaron Snow.
What's up, bro?
That's my bro.
So, Aaron, before you go and say anything, you got to let us know, what are you grateful for?
That's my bro.
Man, how much do I have? Because I could feel this quick. Man, I'm just thankful for transparency. But I'm thankful for friends that are able to be transparent. And listening to your first episode, actually, I listened to the episode with London in the car. We were on our way to just run some errands today. And I think just hearing your heart for not just the one space that many know you in as a pastor, but knowing that your heart for the marketplace is real. But it's also it's experienced. It's not just something you just woke up and you're like, I think I'm going to have a voice in this space. Like, you've actually done the work You've been challenged, you've been stretched, you've been just, you've experienced some tough moments and you've overcome a lot of those moments. And so you have a voice into a space. And I'm thankful for friends who not only a voice for others, but is a voice for me. Even up to this morning, right? We got on the phone together and it was those, one of those moments, right? And it's just real. And it's a voice. It's not just about the responsibility as pastors and as leaders, but a voice that shapes us as husbands, as fathers, as friends, as business leaders. And so I'm thankful for, especially on days like today, right, where we stop and reflect on a man who had a great impact on the world. And I'm thankful that I know a few men who have had a great impact on the world, and I count you as one of those men. Man. So yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Love.
Thank you. And you guys, it's so funny when you have friends, you kind of forget, but this is Pastor Aaron Snow. He is the lead pastor of C3 North Atlanta, where he leads, is North Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
John looked at me alongside his beautiful wife, Katie Snow, and they just have a dynamic ministry. So everyone, introducing you to Aaron Snow, and it's so I'm so overwhelmed. Thank you guys for coming on.
You guys
it was short notice, and I think it's great to see all of these facets. We have one more person that's coming up later on in the show, and so you kind of see all of these facets of who you are, and I hope you bring that to the podcast. Pastor Aaron, thank you so very much.
Yeah, hey, let me offer this to you real quick, because you keep using the word dynamic. And I think so often we hear words like that and we're like, we just associate it with like fireworks, or we associate it with like big personalities. It's a representation of that for sure. But this definition I came across that I think is fitting: a force that stimulates change or progress within a system or process. And I think your podcast, I think your heart, I think your voice is one that is a force that stimulates change. I think it creates progress within a system or within a process. And I think it's not just the traditional systems of this world. I think it's the mental makeup of people. I think it's the trajectory of people's career paths. I think it's the framework of the marriages. And I mean, you two are like just disgustingly in love. Like I thought Katie and I were bad. I thought Katie and I were bad. And quite honestly, you might have made me even more bad. But there's just something about that, man. It's contagious. And I think it's the force that stimulates change in people's worlds beyond just the normal stuff, like the day-to-day, like the intimate stuff, the marriage, the business, the boardrooms. So man, just be encouraged, man. Go bold. Don't hold back. Unleash everything that God's built on the inside of you, and so much more that you don't even know is on the inside of you. And I'm proud of you, homie.
Love you, man.
Thank you, Pastor Aaron. Take him off because we all about to cry. Listen, these lashes cost a lot of money, and I'm trying to keep them all the way together tonight. You don't be seeing Oprah out here crying. Listen, so Nicole Toombs said, "Hey family, still grateful for this beautiful LA weather. We wish we were there when it was not COVID. Congratulations, brother. Aunt Ja and I celebrate you in all of your new adventures. You are truly a dynamic human being. We love you in the Scott family. So strong. Love you guys too. So very much. I know Candace said, so very true. OMG, this is awesome. Tam said, well said, Pastor Aaron. Well said. You guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. So let us jump right in. You ready?
Yeah, baby. Let's
go. Because I want to talk about this podcast. One question.
Let's talk about it.
Why now? You've been putting this. Yeah, like you said, Daryl knows it was 2021, 22, 23, 24. And I feel like it was. Oh my God.
Wow.
Chill. Elder Chalmers. Oh my goodness. Said, in love since Iraq. They sure are. Love this. He was actually in Iraq with us. Can you imagine? 15 years ago. And at our wedding, 15 years ago. This is incredible. Isn't that huge?
It's beautiful.
So
I'm overwhelmed.
So why now? Why now, John Henry?
Yeah,
Why is now the time?
it's a couple reasons. The first reason why I thought about it is for many of you guys that are close to me understand the trajectory of my career. And I spent 2 years literally running around the globe. So it was almost every other week, sometimes every week, I was in a different country and I was doing this work. So it's seldom that you get an opportunity to do the work that you love. But when you get to do the work that you love, around the globe in different cultures and different people groups with different norms and beliefs and practices and laws and governances, it really just expands your view on what business looks like, on your view of humanity, your view of goal setting, execution, strategy, business development, internal operational excellence, all of those things. And I just felt so fortunate and so blessed that even after I returned to our North American team at the beginning of 2020, I felt a need to still stay connected to my global network and still be able to provide value. And I figured that a podcast would be a way to do that. And so I had this desire to do it. If you know me, I never start out doing anything that I can't do in excellence or I am not willing to put the time towards doing. So if I can't do it in excellence, then I'm not going to do it. So now I think that the timing just lined up. And I think maybe I was in my head a little bit thinking that it's going to be so much. But I put together a strategy and I just felt that, hey, now is the time, right, to be able to still stay connected and add value. I believe that I've got a voice and a different perspective that often many people don't get because people don't get the opportunity to get so entrenched in the work from a global perspective. So that's the unique differentiator that I bring. That's the first one. And the second one was I've been thinking a lot about just life and thinking about my dad a lot. And if you go listen to the first episode, the very first part, you'll understand why it was so important for me to get the podcast out on this day at this time.
So that's so awesome. So funny. I want you, Daryl, put Shannon back up. Listen.
This is
Do you see that? Shannon LeCount. Hey, Shannon. He said, Big John, what's good, bro? Oh, my goodness. It's so amazing. I'm so glad that people just showed up for you and people that we hadn't talked to in so long and just saw that and decided to come on the podcast. So I know that it was important for you to drop this podcast today. I know you guys should go and listen to that very first episode with John Henry and I, not because I'm on there, but because you get a little bit about why it was important for him to do it at this time, because he wanted to make sure that the Scott name was great here in the earth. And I can tell you that you are doing an incredible job at just that. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a break, okay? I'm going to give you a break. But you guys, listen. I want you, I want to ask this question to everybody. Daryl, go ahead and just put it on me. I want to go ahead and ask this question. He talked a lot about how he had traveled the world and how he had something to say. Each and every one of us has something to say. Each and every one of us has something in us, whether it's the podcast, the book, whether you're supposed to speak, whether you're supposed to create something, whether you are supposed to do whatever it is that you're supposed to do. We all have it in us. And I want to tell you to start, because I want to tell you that you never have enough money. You'll never have enough resources. You'll never have enough this or that. You'll never feel comfortable. You'll never have it all figured out all at once, because none of us ever do. But the one thing that you just may run out of is time.
That's right.
And so I want to make sure that the time that we have, that you live it, as Pastor Aaron said, live it bold, live it bold, live it brilliant, live fearlessly. Not meaning that you're not going to have fear, but I decided to do it anyway. And I believe that a part of this podcast is deciding to do it anyway. Because while you guys are getting the business aspect behind every project, behind everything that is put out, there is a story. And there's a story in front of you. There's a story inside of you that, guess what? We all need to hear. We all need to hear that story, whether it is written, whether it is out in the world as a movie or a playwright, whether it is you just living your life and impacting through the work that you do on your 9 to 5 or in your business or in your families. We need you. And a part of this podcast is going to make a big impact. And so, John Henry, I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk a little bit about the name, because you could have called it anything. You could have called it culture and engagement. You could have called it partners. You could have called it all kind of things that really speak to what you do as it relates to culture and engagement. And a lot of people, are culture and engagement specialists and all of these things. Why Chart to Heart?
Yeah, absolutely. The spiritual thing is Chart to Heart was birthed in my spirit, right? But let me tell you how that happened. It was 2015, and I was facilitating a leadership session in Massachusetts. And we had really spent so much time developing our strategic goals and our objectives. And I was up facilitating this to probably about 40, 50 leaders that we selected from around the country. We brought them together, and I was doing a workshop, and it just literally came out of nowhere. I was talking about how it is my view that whatever organization I'm in, as I kind of walk through as if I'm the CEO, as if it's my company. I'm not the CEO, but I do understand my influence and my uniqueness. And then also understanding, if we go scriptural, right, my responsibility to be salt and to be light. And so that's just been a way that I lead. So I was having that conversation, and literally out of the blue, it was almost revelatory. I said, what our objective is to take these key results, take these values, and we've got to get them off of the chart, and we've got to get them into the hearts of our people. And it was literally in that moment that it was just like magic. And it was like this aha moment. And people will tell the story of, I remember that moment. I was in that room, and it just became a mantra, and it became really something that I've used around the globe, and it's landed well, and it's been very well received. And often what happens is that we tend in organizations and in any company, whether you're leading a small business, whether you're a sole proprietor and you have different external clients and customers, whether you're Fortune 500 or Fortune 100, you spend so much time developing your strategy, your value creation, what you're going to do in terms of dominating the market and what's going to give you innovative edge and a competitive advantage. But then you realize that there are people who actually do the work. And in my experience, doing this work extensively in the United States and then also on every continent on Earth except Antarctica, is there appears to be this chasm. There's this disconnect between your strategy and the people who do the work, or between your value creation plan or your business objectives or your key results and your priorities and your targets. Many people don't understand what EBIT is or EBITDA is, or what gross margin means, or what revenue means. And so one of the key things that I've tried to do is bridge the gap between the two. And it's been it's something that resonates very, very well.
I love that, because I think it's something that people wish they had a you in their organization. And if they don't have a you, now they do, right? They have this virtual culture and engagement leader. And when I say you,
you can get the
I'm not talking, I'm not,
me.
yeah, but I'm not, I think for leaders, but I think for people who are on the floors, who are frontline, who are doing all these things that don't have that decision making to bring you in, that they can start taking control and kind of taking that ownership like you did. I want to ask you,
baby, you know what I was sitting thinking, what's so true is that this has a transversal effect. So irregardless of your industry, whether you're for profit or not for profit, whether you are a technology company or a service company, whether you're pastoring and leading a church, or whether you're running a lawnmowing, landscaping business, this methodology and this concept, whenever you have a plan and people, you have to connect the dots between the chart into the heart. And so I've had an opportunity to kind of build some tools to help facilitate that. And we've seen companies grow.
So I'm going to ask you one of your questions. Give us an anchor that will allow us to connect that. You know, I'm a small business owner. I will say one of the things that you taught me was I wanted to make sure that when people came into the organization, there were just certain things, right, that we did. So when Rosetta was working and doing things, I would say, don't answer emails. And I mean, she was working for free. God bless her, but I love her so much. But I would tell her on Friday, don't answer emails, because here we don't work on Fridays. I may work on Fridays, but the culture I want to set before anybody ever gets in is that they don't work on Fridays, because I want to be a company that gives this 3-day weekend unless something's going on, right? We are a media company, but to establish that. And you really taught me early on to establish these things. And so the first thing may not have been make $1 million. The first thing was, what can I do when people start to come in, even before they came in? So give us an anchor that we can use in our small businesses, like you said, in our ministries, in our Fortune 500 companies, and as our teams. What can we do? I do it again. Best leadership. Oh, tear. So what are one of those anchors that connects the people and strategy?
Yeah. It's that's hard just to say just one, right? So let me try to put it in a bite-sized little Cracker Jack.
Okay, give us two. Give us two.
I'll do. Okay, so number one are your results, and then number two is this concept of, I'll say, communication, right? In terms of results, you've got to be able to have very clear results. You've got to know what the goal is. So what's the target? What's the number per se? So if you come into your organization and you say, hey, you know what, we're going to set this target. We're going to grow our revenue by 20% year over year, and we're going to go from $100,000 to $120,000. If you know that in the boardroom, everybody that's a contributor to making that happen should also know that. So you've got to be extremely clear in terms of what your target is, what your result is, what your goal is. If you aim for nothing, you're going to hit a bullseye every time. And oftentimes what happens is that there is not clarity in terms of results from a business standpoint. And so then everyone then creates their own result. And so, no, it's very difficult to have alignment. And so what alignment does is that ensures that not everyone is doing the same thing, but everybody is doing their thing, but heading in the same direction. And so alignment accelerates progress towards your results. And in my experience, when we've had alignment, then you tend to always meet your results and often exceed them. So alignment around your results and clarity throughout the entire organization. The second one that I would offer is make sure that you've got a cohesive communication system in place. It is absolutely critical that you make sure that you can get the message communicated from the bedroom. Well, the bedroom. I'm thinking about you, Carol. From the boardroom, all the way downstream throughout the entire organization. So everyone at every level of the organization needs to be able to hear that translated in a way in which they can understand. So what that often means is that you've got to engage with feedback. You have to engage.
I'm sorry. That's a wild organization. Not quite the organization I want to work with.
You have to engage. You have to engage in terms of feedback. And what feedback does is that is often the strongest advantage that organizations have. And here's an example. I remember for the last 2 years, I spent time in Paris. That was my corporate headquarters. That's where I was. So I was flying to Paris. Literally, I would land sometimes in the morning, go to a meeting, and be on a 3:00 flight back to Atlanta because I just wanted to be home. And so often what would happen is that we would make strategic business decisions for the globe from a conference room in Paris. And what I would go in and say is, you all, this sounds good, but this is not going to land well in Colombia, or this won't work in Malaysia, or this is
Right.
not going to go well in Shenzhen or in Shanghai, because we've not created this ecosystem by which we can have feedback flowing both ways throughout the organization. And all that does is that allows two things. One, leaders at my level to make better, more informed decisions. And it gives us insight on what the organization really looks like. And then number two, it empowers and engages our teams downstream. Right. So they're
That's
not just that's Chart to Heart. This is not just the company I work for, but it's like, this is my company too. So feedback
absolutely.
and clarity around the results.
Absolutely. I love it. It feeds so much into the organizational entrepreneur, but for you on an executive level, right? And where I love is the people that actually do the work and empowering them. So Asher did have a question. I want to pull that up. Thanks, Daryl. Even before I said it, he said, I'm sure you'll talk about this later in the discussion, but how do you utilize the strengths of those under you to meet your end state? Positive climate, good productivity. So essentially that whole boardroom, right? How do you utilize the strength? If I have a team to say, this is the strategy, how do I use their strengths to meet that end state? What does that look like?
Yeah, it requires trust and security, right? You would be very surprised how many CEOs I know, how many senior leaders, SVPs, EVPs, people who are leading, but they're really not secure. And so what happens is then their leadership style that they tend to use, and again, I will say this is cultural, right? Because if you go to leaders in Latin America, they're a lot more emotional and a lot more family oriented, and that bleeds even into how they do business. But if you go to Europe and you go to French, it is very clear and very stern, right? If you look within the US, depending on what region you're in, you go to the Northeast, you're going to get a certain type of leader. You go to the South, you go get a certain type of leader. You go to the West Coast, they like it pretty out West. The South like it nice and sweet. The New York, they just go give it to you how it is. And so it's so important to really understand your own, I'll use a word that you use, baby, your own archetype as a leader, but then being able to shift and create this trust by which you can delegate and empower other people. I'm back at Asher's questions, empower others to really step up. And you don't have to do that at a very massive level, right? You want to create this discipline and you want to create this momentum and this rhythm throughout the organization that helps to define your culture, right? And so give some small tasks, but start empowering them and follow up. And the more and more trust that is built, then the more comfort the leader has in terms of delegating. And so I think that's a really good starting point. Identify who those people are, build some type of a relationship. If the only time leaders talk to their teams is when it's time to do a performance appraisal, a counseling session, or I need a task to be done, then I think it's a bit of a harder thing to do, because you
Right.
don't have this relational
Relationship.
component. And so I'll tell you, early in my career, like early 20s, early to mid 20s, I found myself leading in a civil engineering organization, and I would have civil engineers and people who were twice my age working for me, but I was the boss. And I was so hard, just forward charging, trying to make sure that I can prove to everybody else that I was
That
good enough, that
right.
my leadership was falling to the wayside. And so
Mm,
the advantage that I have is I have the Holy Ghost, right? But not everybody has the Holy Ghost. But I remember one time the Spirit of the Lord was really just talking to me. And before I went in my office, I made it my business to walk around and to high five my employees and to just stop and speak. So the first 30 to 45 minutes was built around connection. So when it
I
came
love that.
time for me to do the hard things, especially those of you all that know me, when I'm in the zone and I start going, you might get
Yes,
run over. So I
you
understand
may.
my archetype. And so I'm intentional at building those relationships, sending the message that I see you and I hear you. And then it creates this glue as an organization by which we're able to be more effective.
You are all in my blog. I'm gonna need you to get all the way out of, but I think that's important about that. And you know, it's funny that you started doing that, and that became what you do now. Like that one practice, that one discipline that you put in place years ago when we were in Boston, now carried on across the globe. So it really is putting in those daily things. Like, I don't believe that leadership, you know, I do believe that some people, they may just have a knack for showing up, for taking charge. But I do believe that we all can have this leadership and be able to build that, because we won't all lead Fortune 500 companies. But it's important that we have those leadership attributes as we lead our families, as we lead our communities, as we lead nonprofits, as we lead things on the PTA or small groups or whatever it is, that we all understand that. Paula said, do you have a mission statement for your podcast?
Yeah, the mission of the Chart to Heart podcast is that we are all on this journey to discover the glue that connects the dots between an organization's strategy and their people. That's the mission, is that we are on this journey. And so through the solo episodes, through the interviews that we have, through a lot of my own experience and my colleagues and partners and friends from around the globe, I'm so excited to be able to kind of bring them, and we discover that. But that's the mission, is to go on this journey, because I think the minute that we think that we have it, then if we understand the pace of business, is that business is constantly changing. If anything, 2020 proved that to us, where companies had to innovate swiftly in order just to continue to exist.
Absolutely. So one thing, you know, you said alignment accelerates progress. I love that. I love that. Just being in that alignment and making sure that we are all aligned. And that's what really carries us forward, right? That's what carries the mission forward, the strategy. John Henry, tell us, what are some of the things we can expect? What are some of the episodes? Who are some of the people that you're going to have on your podcast?
Yeah. So I'm bringing some of my colleagues. Here's breaking news: is the first season 1, every guest will be a woman. That is intentional. I did that on purpose. I have traveled the globe, and I see not only just in America, but I also see in Europe, especially in Asia, Latin America, Africa, Australia, all over. I see the engine behind the business that's really causing things to happen. However, they often don't get the platform in order to kind of voice their brilliance. So what I'm doing with the first season is every guest will be a woman in season 1. And so we've got some CMOs coming on board. We have some CEOs coming on board. We have some HR leaders. I've got a CFO coming on board. We've got folks who are leading in technology. And so I'm really, really, really excited about just this first batch. And then obviously you're going to get some of the solo episodes from me. And I'm jazzed about that because it gives me an opportunity. And I like to say that Chart to Heart isn't really this instructional podcast where I'm not telling you, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. You can hire me and I can help you with that. However, I really just want to provide some inspiration. And it's my belief that what inspiration does is it just challenges us to think differently. Meaning that I can go back, I can look at my business, I can look at my team, I can look at my results, and I can see it through a different lens and hear things through a different filter. And so that's the goal.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. So Deja said, would you say your message for companies and leaders is to be people-centric first, then worry about outcomes and results? I think I know the answer, but I'm excited to hear this. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I think that's a dumb dichotomy. And I'll tell you a story. And what I mean by that is that that markets well. But it's not either or. What I've seen in my experience is that we have a healthy balance between the two. Your results, your strategy, your objectives, your priorities, your value creation, all of those things are absolutely critical. And your people are critical. right? And so often what happens is that there's this imbalance. Either we focus on our numbers, on our outcomes, on our results, on our objectives, and we don't make equal investments in our people, or we create this culture that's people centric and everyone loves it. Everybody wants to work for this company. And then what happens is that your results start dipping. And so there is really no proven proof that if I can get you a pool table and I can get you ice cream and the fancy coffee and make all of this investment, I mean, it markets well. There's a lot of consulting companies that built it. That's the unique thing about Chart to Heart is I'm a pastor, but I've also worked as a strategic leader doing digital transformation, operational excellence, quality, I mean, everything. And so being able to kind of bridge the gap. I'll tell you this story. I was in Latin America and I was facilitating a session where I had probably about 30 different countries represented in Bogota, Colombia. This was the summer of 2008. And I finished the end of this 2-day session, and one of the leaders raised their hand and said, "John, I hear you. But at this company that I was partnering with, that I was serving there in Colombia, they don't care about people. They only care about the numbers." And there was this silent stare of agreement that everybody, just wanted to nod, And so I took that story and I told it everywhere that I go. And there's this overwhelming agreement that is embedded in the culture of any organization. Show me the money, show me the money, show me the money, show me the money. We got to grow, 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 grow. But then I've seen the inverse of that, where we invest heavily in our people. We spend a lot of money. We spend a lot of time and effort, but then the return isn't there. And so one of the things that Chart to Heart helps to do is bridge the gap by appropriate prioritization of our people and our strategy. You need both, right? If you spend all your time on your strategy, then you don't have no people because the people have to do the work. If you spend all your time on your people, but your strategy is trash, then you don't have a business. And you need a business in order to make money. So to answer your question, Deja, I wouldn't say being people-centric. I believe each company has to identify their own value, what their secret sauce will be, and then begin to build their business around that.
Absolutely. Paula said, Deja, that's such a good question. That was a really, really good question, Deja. I'm glad you brought it up. And I think it is important because when we do start thinking about that, we feel like it's one way or the other, and I kind of think about, you and I, right? We're parents in our household and we got to manage these kids who is just jumping all over his bed. I don't know what's wrong with your child. I literally do not know what's wrong with your child, but we have to manage these kids. We have to manage these kids. And we have to manage the budget, right? And so, yes, we want to give them this and we want to make sure they have this and all of their wants, but we got to manage the budget because if we give them everything that they want, then the things that they need are going to lack, right? And so I love that when you were talking about that, kind of thought about that's kind of how it is. She said, my story. I know those boys. I know what's going on. Is that you have to manage that. So in a company, you have to manage this. Your people, you care enough about your people and your strategy so you can keep your people on, right? And your strategy working and vice versa.
And that works even as a pastor. I take that exact same approach as a pastor as well.
I think one of the things about your story is that mommy said, hey, y'all, that's good. One of the things about your story is that you do ministry in this marketplace. And I think it's fitting in this scenario with our audience because our audience is heavily faith-based. But you have a heavily faith-based audience that they're also leaders in the marketplace and going in there. And I think it's important that just because you are a believer, that doesn't mean you dumb down who you are in the marketplace and vice versa. So I love how you bring that in. Can I ask you just a quick question?
Sure. You're going to do it anyway, baby.
How do you live out your faith as a leader, right? Because I think sometimes it's easier in different positions, but now you're seen, you're heard, all of these things are at stake now. How do you live out your faith in what you do in the marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. My faith is takes priority to anything and everything. That's just the bottom line, right? Is I care more about my relationship with Jesus and I care about being somebody's vice president than I care about being somebody's CEO. I care more actually about my relationship with Jesus than I do about being somebody's pastor.
Mhm.
My relationship with Jesus is my anchor. It is without my devotion time, without my worship time, without my commitment to Him, nothing works. And so it actually isn't that hard. It's relatively easy. The output of my life is a result of my private devotion. And as long as my private devotion, every area of my life, whether it would be in ministry or whether it would be in the marketplace, it shows up in a way where I can love like Jesus, I can serve like Jesus, I can be excellent, right? Because we see that in the tenets of the scripture, having an excellent spirit, making sure that I'm on time, making sure that I'm prepared. And oh, by the way, out of my devotion, I also get a spiritual advantage. There will be certain things that the Holy Spirit will lead me to do that gives me an advantage. People look at me. I was the youngest and the only executive in a global firm at 36, 37 years old. That was almost unheard of. But I don't accredit that to an Ivy League education. I don't accredit that to having a lot of alphabets behind my name. I credit that to seeking first the kingdom of God, prioritizing my relationship with Jesus, and then relying on Him when I'm in the boardroom, when I'm dealing with difficult situations at work. And so I lead with my faith, is what I say. And that doesn't mean that I'm always quoting scriptures or laying hands on people. Now, I have been known to anoint a couple buildings and things like that. But you've got to be excellent. Show up, be excellent, know what's going on. Your advantage, your anchor is in your devotion. It is in your relationship with God. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to study and you don't have to prepare. You don't have to be diligent. But the Lord will help you in those spaces. And that's been the key to my success. And it's fascinating because people will see that, right? They'll just say, it's something different about you. You're
Mhm.
just you're not like everybody else, right? The Lord comes upon us and He allows us to see people. I've seen CEOs, and God has given me the opportunity to just be able to minister to them in those spaces, to be able to look beyond the frustration and the numbers and the favor that He'll put upon you. It's just fascinating. And so that's how I've done it. But it's no, I do this here and I do this there. No, everything starts with Jesus and everything else happens to work out.
Absolutely. I love it. So, Queen said, that's right. Tam said, your transparency today and in your first episode is inspirational. So, I'm going to go ahead and
Thank you.
take a break here because I want to make sure that if you have an Apple device right now, well, maybe not right now because you'll leave the stream, but if you have an iPad nearby, or when you leave, I want you to subscribe to the Chart to Heart podcast wherever you get podcasts. But if you are an iPhone user, if you are an iPhone user, I want you to make sure that you subscribe on Apple iTunes, that you leave a 5-star rating. That means that you scroll to the bottom, hit those 5 stars, and leave a review. Why? Because this is so very important. It's just like Yelp. I say it all the time. If somebody goes to a podcast and you don't know this person, you just see this handsome black guy on the cover, that'll make you want to listen to it anyway. But in case that doesn't, what does is that they can read the reviews. Why we go to listen, this is how we find our brunch places, Yelp or Open Table, but by the reviews. So go in, leave a 5-star rating. Let them know that that's a good restaurant to eat at. Let them know that it is a good podcast to listen to, and let them know your review. How did it help you? How will it help the next person? How did you enjoy it? Give us that feedback. Thank you so much, Paula. Of course, I'm so excited for this. Raheem said done. So one of the things is, Jahira, I'm going to bring you back. I want to bring somebody very, very close to you up. One other thing that I want to make sure, Daryl, go ahead and copy that link that I sent. When I put this out, one of the things in our reel was that he was able to launch it within 30 days. He was able to launch this within 30 days. And so right now I have a group of students going through a what I like to say is a program that I put together to help them develop their podcast and publish it within 30 days. So it takes the guesswork out of your equipment. It takes the guesswork out of your next steps. It takes the guesswork out of everything. Now, there is work that you have to do because you can only execute if you do the work. But I want to talk to you if you're excited, if you're interested in starting a podcast, if you know somebody that's interested in starting a podcast, absolutely. Daryl just put a link to my calendar. Get on my calendar. One of the things that I love to do is, and one of the things in the classes is, it's not just going to be this brochure that you get. I'm not just going to give you a digital download, but I show up every single Tuesday in that class. You can ask my husband and I walk you through. I answer your questions. While the class is usually an hour, I stay until people get it because I want to make sure that I'm not just giving you something, but that if my name is on, if you say, Portia, help me, I want to make sure that it's done in excellence. And so make sure that you click that link and you can schedule a time to talk. Let us just talk about your podcast idea. I'm very honest about it. Daryl and I have learned some really, really good lessons, and I am more adamant about saying, let's try this. Maybe not that, maybe this. And so that you can bounce that off of me. I have over 60 episodes. And what I do want to say, get on that calendar. What I do want to say is that the podcast has afforded me speaking engagements. It's afforded me opportunities with other companies. It has afforded me to be on other people's podcasts and get my message out. So starting your podcast can do so very much more than the regular monetization of just sponsorships. But it lends to brand loyalty, credibility, and those things that you want to do. You now have something that is, guess what? Your IP, your intellectual property. No one can take that away from you. So even if Buzzsprout goes down, baby, let me tell you, Dropbox got all of those episodes. They will go somewhere. So that's why it's important that you have ownerships. It's like having your masters. You know, if I could sing, hoo-hoo, I won't do it to you. But you guys, I'm getting ready to bring up somebody that is very close to John Henry, very close to me. Let me tell you, when he heard my episode today, he said it was, I forgot what he said it was, but he said it was awesome. He said it was brilliant. So without further ado, I want to bring up Thomas P.E. Ship.
Can you hear me?
Thomas, yes, we can hear you.
Hey, what's going on? It was brilliant. It was excellent. It was like something I had my hand in, but I didn't. So.
Well, Thomas, you know, before you get up on here, you got to tell us what you're grateful for, brother.
Well, you know, I am always grateful for my two little girls, Malia and Melanie. Those are my life. Those are my lifeblood. They keep me moving forward. They keep me striving to be better and do great. And also, my girlfriend on here, Tamika, I gotta say, she kind of brings out a brighter smile in me also.
I see it. So, Thomas, I'm going to give you a moment or two just to congratulate and give John kind of your words on his podcast.
I would like to say it blew my mind. John, every time you say you're going to do something, it's like you go right ahead and do it. I had an excellent time listening to it. Aaron, how you doing, man? I thought we were going to have a podcast first called Saints and Sinners, but, you know, we'll talk about that later. But it was excellent just listening to it. It was a breath of fresh air. I think over the past 22 years with you and our friendship, seeing the ups and downs, seeing how we both pushed each other in our individual careers, our path kind of split or whatnot. You went and got out the military. I stayed in. But within that, we've always gave each other counsel. We've always pushed each other to strive for excellence, maintain that standard, and then exceed that standard as we continue to grow. And that's one thing that we've always done in pushing each other. And I would just like to say congratulations. And I just look forward to hearing Yep. Saints and Saints. Yep. Just like to say that just seeing you and listening to you with your podcast today, and also if you just, as you just said earlier today, it's so transparent across multi echelons of work, companies, civilian, and in the military. Just listening to Portia when she was talking about leadership on the podcast, it was excellent. And I look forward to the next 10 to 15 years of podcasts from John if we don't have a TV show coming up.
Love you, bro. Thank you.
I love that, Thomas. Thank you so, so very much for hopping on. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so very much. We love you.
Thank you.
Love, man.
So, I just want to make sure that we are out there and we are subscribing. We are leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews. Make sure that you do leave a review. All you have to do is scroll to the bottom to be able to see where you can write a review. You can only do it in Apple. So if you're on Spotify or Google looking, you're not going to find it. So make sure if you are an Apple user, go do that now. Babe, we are going to wrap up the show, but I don't want to wrap up this show. I want to make sure that you have some words and, let us know, give us some words and what are your parting words, especially for aspiring leaders or leaders, and how we can just do better at bridging that gap, all doing our part.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, baby. First, thank you so much for hosting this. I appreciate it. I was apprehensive, but for you doing what you always do and making me do things that I sometimes get super shy about. So thank you for pushing me to do this, and thank you for inspiring me to do a podcast. You're one of my heroes, and I'm very grateful for that. And thanks to my brothers for jumping on here. I think every man needs 3, and I got my 3, and I'm grateful that they were all here just to kind of pour some love and get me all emotional and stuff like this. What I would say to everyone is, one, thanks for jumping on here, spending some time, but I encourage you, please, please, please go check out the podcast. Give it a try, see if it adds some value. And just stick around for a couple episodes, and I'm pretty sure that some of the content will add value exactly where you are, irregardless of the space that you're in. And if you're that leader, no matter at what stage of the organization, what I encourage you to do is to remember your heart, right? Remember your heart, and to lead with your heart. See people the way that they are, as humans, as worthy of respect, as worthy of decency. I was thinking about Dr. Martin Luther King today, and in one of his letters from Birmingham, he talked about being an extremist. And he gave an option. He said that whether we would be an extremist for injustice or those things that are negative, I'm paraphrasing, or we will be an extremist for love. And he draw this parallel between the 3 men hanging on a cross. 2 were extremists for the wrong things, but you had one, and that's Jesus Christ, who was an extremist for love. And the question that I would ask as a call to action that you would take into your work, you would take into your ministry, you would take into your families, is what type of extremist will you be? Will you be an extremist for the things that are not going to add value or be beneficial? Or, in the words of Dr. King, would you be an extremist for love, for those things that are going to lift up the next person, for the things that are going to reflect the kindness of Jesus? What kind of extremist will you be? And so I encourage you to think about that as you lead in the marketplace, as you lead in your families, as you serve in ministries. What type of extremist will you be? So that's the glue. That's my inspirational moment for today. Again, thank
I
you all
love
very
it.
much.
Thank you so much. Paula said, you certainly have a podcast voice. I know it's all that deep voice. I wish I had one of those. I don't have one of those. Daryl has a podcast voice too. He really should do like podcasting and voiceovers. Like he should do all of that. He's shaking his head. No, I'm an extremist of love, says Val. Paula said the best is yet to come. Tam says, I could listen to you two forever. Looking forward to Chart to Heart. Thank you so much, Tam. That's so very kind. What kind of extremist will you be? Marty said, great job. Thank you so much for joining, Marty. And you guys know Marty. Marty is the host of Mental Health Matters with Marty podcast. So Marty was our first ever podcast that we took live. Elder Chalmers said, thank you both for being whom God has called you to be. The both of you are special in my heart, and I love you both. Stay blessed. We love you too, brother. Stay blessed. So you guys, Janine, thank you so much for joining, darling. She says, awesome. You guys, I'm so happy that you guys took out an hour, a whole hour of your Monday to come and hang out with us and to listen and to celebrate my love in his podcast. You guys run over there, listen to episode 1, especially if you're still working a 9 to 5, or if you are leading in an organization and you have employees. I think that it will be very beneficial to you. It talks a lot about what John Henry talked about, just about having responsibility and ownership and walking in there like you are the CEO of the area that you can control. You can't control everything, but you can always control the area where you have that influence, where you do the work. So, John Henry, congratulations, babe.
Thank you, baby.
I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys remember that the Chart to Heart podcast will drop each and every other Monday.
Each Monday? Interviews every other Monday. Then you get a solo episode from me in the off weeks.
Absolutely. So every single Monday, there will be a podcast that is dropped between solo and interviews. So you guys listen. That's why you got to subscribe so you get that notification when they go live. You guys know how we do. It's an early Monday morning, early part of the week. And we are going to kill this week. We are going to be excellent. We are going to live bold. And so,
we're going to take it from the chart to the heart.
But we don't leave any show or close any episode without this declaration. Say it with me. Waking up is automatic. Showing up is intentional. Today I will show up. See you guys later.